spoke last week and talked about our mind and what we let in. And, um, you know, what I'm going to share about in a similar way, has to do with that. But I'm not going to necessarily be talking about aspects of the mind. But I was just thinking, um, about how we act and these things that Jesus spoke, they come out of how we feel, how we react, what if we're afraid or if we're confident in our relationship with Christ or we're afraid of God or any of those things. And, it just reminded me of that, in Romans 12:2, it's just saying, don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And I'm thinking about, those things that maybe Pastor Rick spoke last week or these things today, and that we need to continually be transformed. I do. I know because I had a situation that I'm going to talk about in just a little bit on our trip that I was like, okay, it's going to be all right. It's going to be good. But it just made me think, like, how am I going to treat those around me? And what's the reason for the way that I treat those around me? Because it could be out of fear or anger, or it could be out of love and mercy that God has asked us to walk in. And, so Jesus, in Matthew 25, he tells a couple of parables, and in one of the parables, he's talking about a master that is going away, and he gives talents to his servants, and he gives 5 to one and 2 to another, and then just 1 to the last. And he goes away and on his travels, and then when he comes back and he's asked, okay, hey, what have you done with what I've given you? And they come back, the one that had 5, comes back with 5 more because he had, invested them, had done something great with them. The one with 2 comes back with 2 more because he had done something with them. And then the one that had 1, he had buried it because he was afraid of his master. He was afraid of the one that was going to come back and ask, like, what did you do? He was like, at least I'll have 1. The one, what he gave, I just hold on so tight to this thing that I was given, and I can just give it back. But when the master comes back, he's like, listen, I didn't ask you to be afraid, I didn't want you to be afraid, and I didn't ask you just to hoard this and hold it and just give me back what I've given you. I ask you to do something with it. I ask you to do something with what I've given. Now, word talent actually is a measure of weight, not an amount of money, because it can change depending on what the rate of whatever it is. Let's say gold or silver or whatever. But a talent is a measurement, a weight of measurement for something, and this word actually has brought about what we talk about like talents. Oh, you have a lot of great talents. The word talents means a sum of money weighing a talent, varying in different states according to the changes of laws and regulating currency. So it's a weight of measurement. But a talent is how much, how strong, how much you can hold of something, let's say. And that's what was given, and that's what Jesus has done for us. But you know what? It says that in that parable, it says that He gave according to their ability. So this wasn't about how good they were or how bad they were, and it wasn't like you get one because I don't really like you that much. It was the ability to hold and to have. And also the acknowledgement or the judgment that the master gave in this story that he is talking about here. It doesn't come based on the amount of money. It just comes based on what was done. It's what they did with what he gave them. See, sometimes we get in these places of like, well, I mean, look at this person. They're doing all this stuff, or this person, they're doing all this, and what I want to say, and this is everything that I can find in Scripture tells me it's not about the quantity. It's about, let's say, the quality. It's about what's done and your heart in it. He didn't give more than they could carry or more than they could handle. They received according to their ability. It's about how they reacted or acted in relation to how they felt about the master. How are we acting or doing or moving or speaking or doing anything that we do in relation to how we feel about Christ? Because I know I've talked to many people and heard some that are just like terrified of what God's going to do to them or what he might. And what that does is causes this mentality of closing up and hoarding. Like, I'm just gonna try, and again, if I can say, like, I've been in that place myself. And I really feel God speaking and saying, like, listen, look at what I've given. Don't look at what I've given somebody else. We've all gotten according to what we can carry, what we can hold, what he's given us is specific to us, to you and I. And he says, just do something with it. Just do something with it. Will we increase his kingdom? Or will we be afraid, hide, and bury what he's given to us? And then he goes on, then after that, he goes straight into another parable about how we deal with or act or treat people. So in this, it's not about money, it's about how we act or what we do. This first parable, and he goes into it, he's like, now we talk about, listen, when I was a stranger, you came and you took me in. When I was hungry, you gave me food. In verse 34, it says, then the king will say to those on his right hand, come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. And I was in prison, and you came to me. So he says, come. Those that are blessed of my Father, those that are on the right hand, those, and this says is the separation of the sheep and the goats. those that have walked with him and done according to what he's asked and spoken and done something with what he's given. We're not saved on the basis of works, but when we believe, and because we believe in who he is, because of what he's done for us, because we have been saved so graciously and mercifully, been ripped out of sin and death and taken from that nasty place to a place of life in him, in relationship with him. Because of that, what are we going to do with what we've been given? Am I going to hide? Am I going to just keep it in my house and say, like, this is just for me? It's mine. Are we going to give? Are we going to invest? See, because it's not even just giving. Like that, looking outside of ourselves and seeing somebody else in need and helping them is not just I got to give them something. No, it's investment. There's a return on that investment. Not even just in our lives, but there will be. There's reward. There is something even that just happens in us in giving. I can go through so many even scientific studies about giving and thinking outside of yourself or whatever. And I don't have them right now before me to give you, and it would just take too long. But what that does in us, because that's how God has created us. That hoarding, holding, keeping to ourselves and being in that place, you know what it does? It makes us sick. Giving, thinking outside of ourselves and doing for others, it actually lifts our spirits. It actually takes us to a place where our body is rejuvenated, because that is how God has created us. In verse 37, he goes on to say, "Then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in, or naked and clothe you? Or when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you?" And the king will answer and say to them, "Assuredly, I say to you, inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me." As much as you acted in this way, as your heart was not inward but outward toward others, and in any relationship or thing that you come into, that you can say, I'm not just doing this for this person, I'm doing this for him. So you didn't do it just for this person, or you didn't just help them, or you didn't just take them in, or you didn't just visit them. You visited me. You took me in. And who would deny him that? It really changes, our perspective or understanding when we see, so many times we could be like, well, but I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do tomorrow, or what they're going to go away if I sit here and talk with them or pray with them or give them money or help them now, but you just don't understand. But that doesn't matter. What matters is what is he asking us to do? In Matthew 18:10. It says, take heed that you do not despise one of these little ones, all these that I'm sharing, just in this way that we treat others. Just take heed that you do not despise one of these little ones, for I say to you that in heaven their angels always see the face of my Father who is in heaven. God cares so much about the little ones. And I'll say, I think, definitely was speaking about those young, like children, babies, very young. But I even take this and thinking about those just coming up behind a little younger than us, and how much we can sometimes despise those that are a little bit younger for one reason or the other, or get frustrated. And really, I had this moment and here's a story where I think mine wins, by the way, but this really relates to yours because it's actually on a plane also. And I think for myself, I may be a little more of a reclusive person on a plane than even Matt is, because me on a plane, I'm like, just if I could put a bubble around me, is there just a plastic bubble? I'm not afraid of getting sick. I want to sit here, listen to music or whatever. I just don't want to talk to anybody, And we're going on this trip, and you guys know it was our 25th anniversary. We just were able to go away and actually visit our daughter for a couple of days and then spend some time alone. It's like, yeah, we'll see you, but then we're going, going to be alone. But on the way, literally when we left here, 2 plane rides, one was 3.5 hours, the other one was 5 hours and 45 minutes, and to get to Hawaii. And the first plane ride, it was decent, it was good, it was short, not too bad. And the second plane ride, we hop on the plane, we go let's go all the way to the back. I don't, just sit back there. Hopefully, it's one of those things, hopefully there'll be enough open seats where we can take 3 and have one in the middle that's just empty. You can just lounge out in a plane or whatever. And anybody try to, am I the only one that tries to do that? I don't think so, because I looked up the plane, it was person, seat, person, and they were all trying to keep that middle seat just open, So the plane is completely full. They come over, they're just it's 100% full. If you have an empty seat, let us know. Okay, all right, fine, So, so I scoot over, and there's an empty seat, and you're if somebody comes, I hope they just want to sleep. They're just going to lay there all perfectly still and just sleeping. And so all of a sudden comes back this girl that's an 8-year-old girl. We have a picture of it, actually. And she didn't sleep. She actually sat down and right away started 100 different questions and talking about everything about her life. I know about her grandmas. I know about all of her family and where they live. She actually explained how to get there. And she just was going and going and and I'm like, what, you see my arms, oh, okay. And so I'm like, okay, I can handle this a couple of different ways. One is I can get up and leave Tori and try to, I'm just going to sit in the bathroom for 5 hours. Or I could just say, I'm not going to talk, whatever, just be rude. And I was like, okay. And Tori just smiling at me, just yep. And And so I was like, let's just. So I just like, you're going to ask me questions? I'm going to ask you questions. Like, why are you traveling? Like, she's like, how early did you wake up? And I was like, well, we woke up pretty early to get on the first plane, but this is our second plane, and she's like, well, we had to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. My mom didn't even sleep because she was packing and she had to get all ready and then the babies and then, because her mom was sitting all the way at the front of the plane with a 2-month-old and a 1-year-old. And so I'm like, well, we talked, we had fun. And you know what? You know what I said afterwards? I was like, man, Tori, that actually that plane ride, we flew that plane ride home, and it was dreadful. And nobody talked to me. And that plane ride there, it felt like it was like 20 minutes. I had no idea that I was even flying for 5 hours or 5.5 hours. Because she was keeping me busy, And so then not only that, so okay, she's talking, and it's, I don't know, it's probably 2 hours pass by. We're talking, we're doing all this stuff, and I'm like so sleepy. And she had stopped talking, and I was just like, I think my eyes just closed, and I didn't even know I fell asleep. And then all of a sudden, there's another picture. Okay, so I fell asleep, and then, oh, look at that. She fell asleep too. She's leaning over on my shoulder. And then the next picture. And then all of a sudden, I don't even know what happened. Actually, I was asleep, and she was handing a baby over to Pastor Tori, and I was like, there's a baby. And then he's like grabbing my hat, and I'm like, okay, well, here we go, I like kids. Okay. I didn't think I was going to be, entertaining them on this flight, but okay, cool. And then the next one. Come on. Look at this. Look at this. That plane ride was not 5 hours long. It was like 30 minutes. I mean, seriously, I don't even remember it. But like, I'm thinking about what the ways that I could have reacted and definitely have reacted, right? The ways that I have like just closed up and held on to what Christ has given me, which is peace and mercy and what Christ is, right? He's given you patience. And goodness and mercy, forgiveness, and so much. And then how could we just take and bury that, say, no, not right now. You don't get this. I'm not making that investment. I'm going to hold it for myself. I see if he takes it back, just take back what I gave you. See, is that good? No. And I'm telling you, it's not good. I mean, it turned out just to be an amazing, amazing moment. Something that literally I would tell you before that was probably one of the worst things that I thought could happen in my entire life. Sitting next to a young girl that's going to talk for so long and not let me just be peaceful, and then it's just handing babies over, like, here, take care of him. You hold him. But it was a precious moment. It was an amazing. But how many of those moments do we miss? By burying what's been given to us. Luke 6:36, it says, be merciful, even as your Father is merciful. We've received so much mercy. The word mercy is chesed. It means goodness, kindness, faithfulness. We've received so much goodness and kindness, this faithfulness to us, even though we didn't deserve it. We didn't deserve the kindness that was given. But he's freely given it to us. Like he's held open his hands. He didn't keep it to himself, but he gave. He's invested it in us. So Jesus says, be merciful even as your Father has also been merciful. Be open-handed, kind, good, faithful. Just be like him. You know, I think about that. You know, when people used to wear those bracelets, the what would Jesus do? You know, and it seemed pretty cheesy. But, I mean, I was just thinking about that in all of this, and I'm like, I think, does anybody even think what would Jesus do anymore? Because it's like, because do we want to be like him? I do. I mean, that's what that all was about. It's not, I mean, I'm not going to wear a what would Jesus do bracelet, but I do want to think, like, I want to act like him. I want to respond like him. I want to care for and have like a burden for people that he had. And I want my heart to be open in that way. And I want to not hoard what he's given me, but I want to make that investment. I want to be open-handed and make that investment to see his kingdom grow. I don't know what that, and I do know she told me that they do go to church because she told me that, you know, about this, she was practicing for this play thing that they were doing at church, you know, in her hometown, and I just thinking like, man, what would he have done sitting there? And I hope that he I don't know why I'm getting so emotional, but I hope that he looks down. I hope that he looks and says, yeah, that's what I would have done. I would have just soaked up all those questions and asked more questions. And I would have just grabbed that baby and held him and let him play with my hat and, you know, and bounced him up and down like this until he was tired, you know, and then just held him as he fell asleep. It was so cute. I mean, like I was just holding him facing forward, and he was just like, his head was nodding, so I was like, you need some, you know, and it was like, it's like, you need some place to lay your head. And I just want to be like Jesus. That's my question, I guess, today is, do we want to be like him? Do we want to live open-handed, investing what's been given to us? And I just want to pray with us today, just to over our hearts and our minds, that if there's anything that's been holding us, keeping us, walls that we've built up to keep us from loving and showing mercy, just being like him, that those things would just be broken off and torn down and ripped away. Because what he's done is broken those chains. What he's done is covered all that sin, that shame, and broken down the wall between us, that we can have this relationship with him. But not only that, it's so powerful that it's broken off and broken away anything. We have to receive it. We have to accept that. But it can break any chain, any bondage, any wall or crusty thing that's been covered over us. And we just have to ask him. So that's what I want to do today. Will you just stand with me?